Squidward.
It's beautiful.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. People are angry on the internet all the time. It is fine. I love Studio Ghibli movies. The whimsy and magic behind each of their films is something special. When I was a kid, I was enamored by Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. When I was older, I was floored by the storytelling in Spirited Away. I grew to appreciate the adaptation of Howl's Moving Castle and how it actually improved on the book. I adored the harshness of Princess Mononosuke. I even later adored the simplistic plot and mind-melting beauty of Ponyo. As such, you can imagine my excitement at actually getting to witness the next film before the world ends. And having a wife that's also a fan and wants to see it in theaters with me, that's super nice, not gonna lie. So we faced the cold, bought some tickets, and watched it on a Saturday morning when no one else was around. And boy, it was pretty good. Nothing about it was bad at all, but I will say I don't think it cracked my top 3 Miyazaki films. Slightly disappointed in that regard, but what are you gonna do? Miyazaki might have set the bar a little bit too high earlier in his career, but this is still a great film. I say as I feel red dots on me from the snipers.
Don't move, don't dare move a muscle.
If you don't know, the boy in the Heron follows Mahito after he loses his mother during a fire at the hospital. Set during the Pacific War, the section of World War II fought on that part of the planet, Mahito and his father evacuate Tokyo to live with his father's new wife on her estate out in the country. Unfortunately, the new wife is actually Mahito's aunt, and she's already pregnant. Plus, there's a strange magical crane trying to entice Mahito into an odd tower. While the boy resists at first, he is eventually forced into the structure when his aunt goes missing. And just to clarify, by aunt I mean his mother's sister and not his father's sister. A little less weird, but still strange by today's standards. The first thing that I have to praise with The Boy and the Heron is that this might be the single most beautiful film Miyazaki has ever created. In fact, it might be the most beautiful animated film I've ever seen. Maybe just animation in general. It seems like he took elements he learned from all of his other films and put it into this. The visions of trees, forests, skylines, water, moss covering buildings and structures, odd architecture, and strange creatures had me mesmerized the entire time. The fire effects gave me goosebumps. I'm eventually going to play this movie in the background, muted over and over and over again, just so that I can see something beautiful out of the corner of my eye when I'm doing something else. I kid you not that I'm still thinking about some of the environments long after seeing this film.
My God, these could be tracings.
Another thing that really caught my attention was the time period. It is so interesting seeing the shift in Japanese culture, integrating more Western customs, suits, cars, factories, even some of the housing designs. It's so interesting to see this time period from the perspective of civilians away from the war, even if they're feeling the effects. Plus, I thought the characterization was perfect. There was little dialogue at the start of this movie, and I understood Mahito perfectly. His forced politeness, the pain he was experiencing, the anger he felt at the adults around him in the situation he found himself in, and he was so ready to lash out at something in anger that he almost seemed excited when prepping to kill the Heron. The same thing with the other characters, the Heron or Birdman or whatever he's called, the father, the Aunt Natsuko, the maids, Kiriko, and even the things in the tower. Even with minimal talking, I got a sense of what their goals, hardships, and desires were. So we had the characters defined. I care about them. Plus, the setting is unique and interesting in and out of the tower. That just leaves the plot. And boy, this is where the situation stumbles just a little bit.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
It's not that things don't make sense, they actually do. Miyazaki films are never that hard to follow. He just doesn't explain things in a conventional way. Magic is shown and not told in any way whatsoever. There are very few moments of exposition in his older films. We're just supposed to understand by watching and by interpreting what's going on. Sometimes we're supposed to come out with our own interpretation of how things work and what is going on. That is The Boy and the Heron's biggest mistake. It doesn't do the usual Miyazaki method. It tries to explain things a little bit too much, and I understand why, but also I don't think it works as well as his other films. I have a policy. I call it the Tolkien and Sanderson rule. Either writers need to explain almost everything or almost nothing. The middle ground of no man's land is a bad place to be, especially with magic. It either just works or we need to have a better understanding of it. And Miyazaki decided to have multiple scenes of just exposition, leaving some things explained and some things not. It kind of felt like the critics from the West made him try to adapt to a different audience. But that's a terrible idea because people in the West have the worst suggestions possible to actual artists.
This is the result of a broken society in which profit comes before morals.
Boo! Boo when you taste a burger, boo!
And these scenes of exposition really slowed down the film. The pacing felt off from Miyazaki's usual movies. I'd say it's about 20 to 15 minutes too long, because that's the point where I really started feeling it. I also found it slightly frustrating that the Heron or Birdman wasn't in the film as much as I thought he would be. Considering his name is on the title, I thought he'd be with Mahito a lot more, because I loved their dynamic, and the reasons they were separated were pretty dumb. But I did love the hero's journey and the character development, how everyone was fleshed out, plus the themes of anger and war playing in the background, of loss and fate, of different perspectives and values, of trying to play God and controlling a bit too much. In all that, it was fantastic. Just a bit too long, a bit too drawn out, a bit too much of everything, except the Heron. It's like if Dark Souls sat you down and told you what the plot was. It kind of misses the point of the rest of the experience, and it all concluded with the ending feeling slightly rushed.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man!
This is far from a bad film. It's great. I might just be slightly disappointed considering that this was supposed to be Miyazaki's swan song, his last film. I know that's not the case anymore, but still, I know this might sound odd, but it felt like someone got in Miyazaki's ear. Either that or the sci-fi feel of this tale made him feel the need to draw it out and explain more. But I might be feeling a little bit too critical. The film was so good, probably one of my favorites of 2023. Never forget, Miyazaki's worst film is still about 10 times better than anything else. I would suggest almost everyone watching this, just maybe not in the theater. This is not a theater film, so maybe that was part of the problem for my experience. I would have killed to be able to pause and take in the landscapes, to be able to go to the bathroom, to bring my own snacks, to take it all in and not be pulled to the side and explain the meaning of everything, to be able to talk with my wife about what was happening. I can understand what the meaning is, Miyazaki. I get what you're doing here, man. If someone else doesn't, I think that's a them problem.
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
I guess.
I think The Boy and the Heron will grow on me in time. I'll definitely want to go back and watch it again, if not for the ungodly good artwork and character development, but to digest the story again as a whole. The themes of anger, loss, control, acceptance, and love were powerful. In some ways, I do feel a bit too critical. In other ways, I think other people were too accepting. It's a great soup with a bit too much pepper and not enough salt. If I had to make a range of what people would enjoy from this, I'd give it to a 7 to 9 out of 10, with my experience being about an 8. I know many other people who are on either side of the scale, but you're gonna be between that numbers unless you're an outlier. It's an odd film that I've been thinking and feeling a lot about lately, especially the loss of the mother and the continued march of time, and family making decisions without you and dragging you along for the ride, and you just having to make the best of it and be polite and nice and sucking it up. Both in and out of the tower, it felt like a great tale. I'm glad this film found financial and critical success. I want more of this, stuff that I have to think about, and who knows, maybe in a few years I'll rewatch it again and like it more a second time, and not care about the exposition. That does tend to happen with Studio Ghibli. They make films that need to be enjoyed multiple times to truly appreciate the experience. But I will end on saying that hot damn, this was a beautiful film. Felt like my eyes were going to dissolve. Oh my God. You're welcome to disagree with me, that's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
That is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I tell ye what.
Hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my LPCO books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series. Then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.